Hello everyone, and this is my review for TNA Impact Wrestling on May 31st, 2016. And well, I almost hate to admit this because they've been on such a roll recently, but this was honestly probably one of their worst shows I've seen in quite some time. I did not like the storyline of the show. The characters themselves made it work as much as they could, but just the story that they told throughout the entire thing made a lot of the faces feel like they're just coming off as petty and not necessarily coming off as faces in that case. Main area, with main area here with the EC3 being named in charge for the show. The week before he had was making a phone call, and this week apparently that phone call means he gets to be in charge of the show. Which, okay, I mean they've done it before in the past, but seriously, you would have figured the storyline wise they would have gone with an area where like Billy Corbin would come in or Dixie would come in and say, hey, Michael Bennett, you or Maria, you haven't really necessarily been doing that good of a job putting knockouts, careers on the line in tons of matches and everything like that. They don't feel like she'd be doing a good job. So job evaluation and the whole aspect that, and then they could have made the match with Michael Bennett with an EC3 based off of the aspect that you made a deal and you're the one who actually ended it with disqualification when he was about to actually fulfill the deal. So they were going to make the match anyway. In that sense, it would have been simple storyline going into everything. But they put EC3 in charge, so okay, the Michael Bennett match comes from that, and the segment with the job evaluation later with Maria was okay, and it does get them to where they want. I just wish they would have done it. I feel like they could have done it better, and again, this is only my opinion on it, but it's just like I felt like this could have done better, and it came off making everybody seem rather petty, especially with the way that the storylines didn't necessarily call for them to be like start getting revenge before their matches. Their revenge should have been the match itself. But now, like, EC3's kind of getting one over on Michael Bennett, and Gail Kim's kind of getting one over on Maria here in that sense. And it's like, okay, the whole aspect should have been them getting one over on these guys, should have been them getting their match. And then the full revenge would have happened at the actual pay-per-view itself. But now it feels like both of them are kind of getting a little bit of their revenge now, and then they get their full revenge at the pay-per-view. It just doesn't seem like it makes sense in the terms of their storytelling of where they're going with this. I mean, you had EC3 make Michael Bennett a custodian, a referee, and then have a match with James Storm later on. It just didn't really come off all that well. And as a matter of fact, the match that they had Michael Bennett referee was also named as a #1 contendership for the tag team titles, and they made that match kind of come off as a joke as well. It didn't work, at least in my own sense of everything. I mean, you had a little bit of build up for that tag team #1 contendership match with the Bromans trying to. Where the Bromans and Raquel were doing something, and the whole aspect was like she was trying to make them remain focused by showing off her body. It was kind of really weird in that sense, but maybe it was a whole aspect of, oh, this is your prize if you guys start winning type feel. And it's like, okay, that might be the case or what they're going for there. And then of course they go out there, they have their match with Rockstar Spud and Tyrus. And Michael Bennett's out there also being the referee for the match, and it's just like Michael Bennett's not caring at all about being about that, and he's playing his character as he should in this sense. He doesn't want to be out there to be a referee. He doesn't want to be a custodian. He's doing that, but you make this a #1 contendership match, and you have this portion of the character. It just feels like that match ends up being overbooked by doing it in that sense, and then making it a number one contendership match to go along with it. Otherwise, the match wasn't too bad. And don't get me wrong, there were certain points of the show that I thought was actually good, but another one that I just did not like whatsoever, and it started out rather well, was Al Snow. Last week he had two guys come out there, and they were wearing like just French jackets, or France jackets, come out and help him during his street fight with Grado. So he introduces them this week, and by the way, for people who don't know who they were, back in NXT, they were Sylvester Lefort and Marcus Louis. Here they are known as the Tribunal. Basically, Al Snow's depiction of athletes. Like I said, this is actually starting out kind of good. And then Grado comes out. And let's just say, in the sense of everything, it, like after Grado came out, it wasn't too bad. It was just when they started throwing around petty and childish insults that made it just like, okay, this went from good, or maybe not good, but it went from okay to this is pretty crap in that sense. And that segment just, it kind of went downhill after that. I liked everything up to then, like the promo from Sylvester from the Tribunal. I'm going to call him Lefort and Louis for the longest time. I don't know why, but oh wait, I watch NXT a lot, so that would be why. But but the Tribunal's promo wasn't too bad, and everything in there. Al Snow's promo wasn't bad. The beginnings of Grado's promo wasn't bad. It was just that ending that was like, really, you're going with your mama jokes and okay, I guess that's how they're going to continue the storyline. So we'll see where they go with that, but I'm not too keen on where they're going with that, and that's very unfortunate because I like Lefort and oh Jesus, I'm going to keep calling him that the entire time. I like the well, I could go ahead and say it here. I like Lefort and Louis back in NXT and how they did everything, and they can actually do some good work. But they're kind of put into this situation where they're going to have to try to make a lot of like gold out of crap in this sense. So, I mean, we'll see how everything goes and see how everything works off with that. You had the whole pick your poison stuff throughout the entire night, which was also pretty good. Now, I actually like the pick your poison stuff. I thought it was good. It gets random matches in there that make sense to the storyline that they're trying to go for. It's like, we want Lashley to face Bram, but how do we get there? It's like, oh, pick your poison. Since Drew and him have a match, they get to pick their opponents. And of course, Drew picks Bram, comes out there, cuts a promo for it and everything like that. I liked what they came up with. The match between Lashley and Bram was actually rather decent. I thought it came off pretty good. Lashley ends it with a DQ and then ends up spearing him a couple times to go along with it. Kind of like Lashley saying, it's like, I don't necessarily want to win, I just want to kind of send a message. And then, of course, Eli Drake comes out to cash in his Feast or Fired. Actually, this is not a bad way of doing it. Kind of basic way of cashing in one of those contracts. We've seen that before in the past a lot in WWE with the Money in the Banks, and we've seen it in TNA as well with the Feast or Fires. I kind of liked it. It was not a bad way of going in this case. And of course, Eli Drake does come out there and win rather quickly. I do like the aspect that it doesn't just necessarily end where he cashes in, pins, and wins. He did have to do some kind of a small amount of offense in there to actually get the victory. So overall, not a bad way of going. And actually, rather basic, seen before, but kind of effective here for Eli Drake to cash in the way that he did. It kind of works to the character in every sense there for him. So I'm actually not as... I don't find it as necessarily as bad because it fits the character for him to kind of cash in at an opportune time to do so. And the Feast or Fire, or not the Feast or Fire, but the Pick Your Poison for Drew Galloway was Decay. The whole team Decay. Again, not a bad way of going. Kind of depicts off of Lashley's like, you know what? You only picked one guy, but it never said how many guys you could pick for your opponent. And he makes the whole team of Decay actually their the pick your poison match for Drew Galloway. I even like the ending here. They make it where you don't necessarily hurt Decay all that much because Bobby Lashley comes out there and he tries to interfere in the match and misses Drew Galloway and hits Abyss. And that's what ends up causing Drew Galloway to get the win. I actually kind of like that in that sense of everything. It does get Drew the win and kind of gets one over on Bobby Lashley in that case. And it doesn't necessarily make Decay seem weak in that sense as well because, well, there was interference and then it happened. And then they lost. So it ends up coming off rather well in that sense. Like I said, there were a few things on the show that I liked, but a large portion of the show was based around the whole EC3 Michael Bennett thing. And, of course, the Grado and Al Snow storyline, which I'm not liking at all. And they were doing all right with it tonight, but then it kind of went to crap after that. And another thing that I ended up liking out of it, and this came after the whole Maria job evaluation, which actually another segment I didn't necessarily like. Like, don't get me wrong, Maria, EC3, Michael Bennett were trying their best with these, but it did not come off well. And this is me being a rather big EC3 fan, like a fan of how the character is and everything. And it just didn't come off well inside of the job evaluation, but it did lead into Jade and Gail Kim going up against Sienna and Allie. Not a bad match. Not a bad tag team match here. Allie kind of plays off that character. I believe she's a lot better in the ring than what she was depicting herself this week, but she's also but she was also playing into the character and playing it rather well in that sense. So it also makes it feel like another thing in there is that, you know, they're sticking around. It wasn't like EC3 fires Maria. No, the match was just made. Where, yeah, he could easily have fired her as well because technically she was in charge in that sense, but okay, in there. But the Sienna and Allie teaming up kind of worked out well. Like, Allie played the kind of cowardly portion of Maria's entourage, while Sienna was the muscle. Like I said, Allie, I believe her independent name was Cherry Bomb. Is actually, from what I remember, not too bad in the ring, but she was playing a completely different character tonight and playing it rather well. And this eventually does lead to Gail and Jade winning the match as well. And again, them just kind of getting over and getting a little bit of revenge for everything that's been going on. And again, why are they getting so much revenge tonight? Shouldn't they be getting that revenge at the pay-per-view? Makes you almost feel like Michael Bennett's going to win again, and maybe Maria's going to win again. They're going to continue on with the storylines. Though, in the sense of everything, they've been going with these storylines for a couple months now, with minimal matches and everything like that. And it's like, okay, these Slammiversary matches kind of need to end it. And again, Gail and EC3 were getting a heck of a lot of revenge tonight, which is usually saved for baby faces when they go into the pay-per-view itself, or the big match itself, not beforehand. Usually, like, their one-up is like, oh, we get our match that was technically not going to be granted to us. Or at some point because, well, the heel reneged on a deal, or the heel had done something necessarily wrong, or they felt like they weren't doing a good job in this case. But like I said, that was just things that I didn't like about the show. And like I said, I'm an EC3 fan. I like Michael Bennett as a heel, but it was just like the stuff that they gave him tonight was not good. Was really not good, and they just couldn't pull it off, at least in my mind, in that sense. But the final portion of the show I want to talk about, which is something I actually liked about the show. Like I said, I like the Pick Your Poison stuff from Bobby Lashley and Drew Galloway. I like their interaction tonight. But the other one that I liked was the segments at Matt's home with Matt and Jeff. They came off rather well, liking how basically it was a full setup of a trap throughout the entire show. They showed it in small little segments, and it basically is now showing that maybe Rebby is actually with Matt more than what we were initially thinking in there. And like I said, I liked Matt's character in here, and they came off rather well. The only spot that I probably necessarily don't really care for was the whole aspect that they took the final spot, which was in like a ring that they had set up inside of inside of a shed. And it was like, okay, Matt signs the contract, and then he goes to take, and then that's where the distraction with Rebby comes in. She takes what would be assumed to be Maxwell, their kid, but was actually just a baby doll, and tosses up to Jeff. Jeff's like, what the heck are you doing? And then gets attacked and then put through the table. The only spot of it I didn't really necessarily think that was good about it was they went into slow motion with it for a few seconds. It really kind of takes you out of everything for a couple moments, and that portion just didn't look well. But otherwise, the entire set of segments was rather good. I kind of liked it in that sense. So, like I said, overall, since most of the show was based around the whole EC3 Michael Bennett storyline, and then of course the whole Maria thing as well, I thought the stuff, like, I've liked their storylines coming up. I've liked the storylines so far between all of them. It just felt like tonight's storyline, it didn't make sense for the faces to get so much revenge tonight, in that sense of everything. And that's what it really did seem like they were going for here. And like I said, they tried to make it as good as possible, but these segments were not that good. And again, like I said, TNA Impact's been doing rather well recently. This has probably been the one show that I would say hasn't been that good as of late. So we'll see how next week goes, because they have one more show before Slammiversary. We'll see if they go out with a good one. I'm thinking they will. Like I said, this might just be one of those few shows that are necessarily not part of the norm as of late. Like I said, I've liked TNA Impact as of late, but this one was kind of a letdown of a show. They've got one more show before going into Slammiversary. We'll see how it goes. That was my review for TNA Impact Wrestling this week. I thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.